First Interlude 5. Flying Saucers in the Bible. In the book, The Sky People, I dealt to a great extent with biblical incidents that could have a UFO connotation. For instance, what caused the walls of Jericho to fall down? I suggested that the Sky People gave the Israelites some vibrationary subsonic secret, which enabled them to strike the right note when sounding the trumpets. I also mentioned the 3 men, angels, according to the Bible, who came to Abraham. These angels talked, ate, washed, and drank with him. I suggested that they were Sky People. These angels told Abraham they were going to destroy the wicked city of Sodom. Abraham, you will recall, pleaded for the lives of righteous men, and the Lord, the leader of the 3, agreed to his request. The 3 men then visited Lot, who was sitting in the gate of Sodom. He too welcomed them, and bowed with his face to the ground. He, too, made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Genesis 19:3. Many more biblical incidents were described in that earlier book of mine, showing that the Bible is really the greatest flying saucer book of them all, apart from its illuminating, and more important spiritual content. For instance, Moses was commanded by the Lord to bring the Israelites, who had been oppressed by the Pharaoh, out of the land of Egypt. This he did, and according to the Bible, the Israelites were led through the wilderness near the Red Sea. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud, to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night, from the people. Exodus 13:21 and 22. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, that guided and protected the Israelites, could be likened to a very accurate description of a modern UFO. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai, on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. Exodus 19:20. However, the all-important clue is in the following verse. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. We certainly know that if people get too close to a UFO they can suffer injuries or even death, if the power is on. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Ezekiel 1:4. The whole of the first chapter of Ezekiel contains probably the finest description in the Bible of a spacecraft landing and taking off. This incident took place in the land of the Chaldeans, by the river Kabar. Very full accounts and commentaries on this event have been given by other writers. Suffice it to say here, that when reading Ezekiel's own description, it is well to remember that he was not living in a mechanical age. Ezekiel had to rely on things with which he was familiar in making his report, such as birds, animals, people, and chariots with wheels. If we bear that in mind, then it will be realized that this is a wonderful UFO landing report. Another outstanding account of a spaceship in the Old Testament is the story of Elijah being taken up in a whirlwind. It is interesting to note that both Ezekiel and the writer of the 2 books of Kings in the Bible refer to a UFO as a whirlwind. And it came to pass, when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. 2 Kings 2:1. Incidentally, there are at least 2 occasions on which Enoch is carried off in a whirlwind. These are described in the Book of Enoch, which is possibly the most important apocalyptic manuscript extant, apart from those in the Bible. Once again, we can only postulate that the ancients could only describe these vehicles by calling them after something with which they were familiar. After all, modern UFOs often come like a whirlwind out of the north. And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said to Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee, before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. 2 Kings 2:9. Now this verse is very interesting, as it indicates Elijah had advance information that he was to be taken up. We will be discussing in a later section of this book, modern cases where people have been given advance knowledge of a contact with Sky People. Other instances, too, where individuals have had a sudden impulse to drop whatever they were doing, and go up a hill or to some other place, where they would see a spaceship. All this seems to point out the possibility that the sky people used telepathic abilities in contacting Earth residents. Elijah's advanced information turned out to be correct, for the Bible tells us he was taken up by a whirlwind into heaven. And he said, "Thou hast asked a hard thing, nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee, but if not, it shall not be so." And it came to pass, as they still went on, and talked, that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. 2 Kings 2:10 and 11. The Bible states that Jacob was the son of Isaac and Rebekah, and the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. He was the twin brother of Esau. However, Esau was born first, but Jacob through a trick caused his brother to relinquish his birthright. Nevertheless, despite this early misdemeanor, Jacob had several divine revelations or actual contacts with angels of the Lord. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host," and he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Genesis 32, 1 and 2. Finally, after many vicissitudes, Jacob migrated to Egypt, receiving on the way the promise that God would make of him a great nation, which would come out of Egypt. This was the dream of Jacob. He died at the ripe old age of 147. More than once in the Bible, we come across personages who start off their lives in the wrong way, and end up as revered and respected beings. For instance, there is Saul who persecuted Jesus and the Christians, until he had his famous illumination or contact, on the road to Damascus, and subsequently, became Street Paul. Now, we turn our attention to the New Testament. In The Sky People, I stated that scientists have not been able to solve the mystery of the star that appeared in the heavens at the time of the birth of Jesus. The Star of Bethlehem. Astronomers have found that no such star should have been in the heavens at that time. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Matthew 2, 9 and 10. I wrote, many people throughout the world who have studied the phenomenon of flying saucers hold the view that the Star of Bethlehem was a gigantic spaceship. Many spaceships seen at night have appeared to witnesses as bright as the stars. Notice too, how the star went before them, till it came and stood over, or hovered, where the young child was. The Star of Bethlehem, which led the 3 kings to the Christ child, is similar in some respects to the spacecraft, that was a pillar of cloud by day, and a pillar of fire by night, that led the Israelites through the wilderness. Let us now look at the miraculous outward transformation of Christ, when on a high mountain with his disciples, Peter, James, and John. And after 6 days Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain. And was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And, behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Matthew 17, 1 and 3. Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James the Less and Hoseas, had all been present at the crucifixion of Jesus. In the Bible, it is stated that both Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Hoseas, were present at the tomb, but we are not told specifically that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was there too. However, I think we can conclude that she would most certainly have been at the tomb. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And, behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him the keepers did shake, and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay. Matthew 28, 1-6. When you consider the way Elijah, Enoch and other biblical people of giant spiritual stature were taken up into the skies by a whirlwind, It would not be altogether surprising for Jesus to leave in a similar manner. It is appreciated that this is a highly controversial suggestion, but food for celestial thought. Finally, we come to the sighting of St. Peter. Peter was one of the most important of the disciples, though he denied Jesus at the most crucial point. However, afterwards he assumed the leadership of the early Christians, and did fine missionary work. Ultimately, he too was crucified. The sighting of St. Peter, as given in the Bible, could be interpreted as a psychic happening. On the other hand, it has similarities to modern UFO phenomena. On the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. And saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, and let down to earth. Wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill, and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. The Acts 10, 9-16. Subsequently, Peter came to understand that the vision he had experienced meant that people of all races and color could become Christians. In this chapter we have described some of the many biblical events, which have a similarity to the UFO phenomena today. It would seem that the sky people and their celestial chariots were very often in contact with our ancestors in biblical times. Part 2. UFOs and the Psychic. 6. The Paranormal Aspect. There is considerable evidence that the UFOs appearing in our skies have some connection with psychic phenomena. We are dealing here with a difficult problem. Both those who believe in UFO phenomena and those who believe in psychic phenomena have their respective followings, which sometimes overlap. However, neither the UFOs nor psychic phenomena have actually been officially recognized by the powers that be. So, what we are attempting to do now is to show a connection between two subjects which officially do not exist. Some years ago, an article called UFOs and the Occult, by Captain Ivar Mackay, former chairman of the British UFO Research Association, was published over 2 successive issues of Flying Saucer Review. Captain Mackay listed certain apparent similarities between psychic and UFO phenomena, which seem to show up in subjects such as teleportation, levitation, materializations, expansion and contraction of objects, and many others. We must make it clear that though Captain Mackay listed these similarities, he did not state that psychic or occult phenomena were identical to UFO phenomena. He was merely pointing to the possible connections. In these next few chapters, we will take some of the items Captain Mackay has listed, and give examples of an apparent connection with UFO phenomena. I think this is the first serious attempt to make such a comparison in such depth, and hope that it will be of use to other workers in the combined fields.